trouble. NFL Supercoach is back. Yes, how good is this? That's right, welcome back, NFL Supercoach. This is Jim Does SuperCoach talking NFL. It's our first NFL Supercoach show of the season. It is Friday, August 21. So we're less than 3 weeks out of the start of the NFL season. And hopefully in 3 weeks' time, I'll be seeing you at the MCG for Rams, Niners. Probably getting around a few tins as well as we cheer on our Supercoach teams out there. But that's right, NFL Supercoach is open again. This is our first episode back covering NFL. We finished 26th overall last season in the first year of NFL Supercoach, which was awesome, right? And I mean, look, I just love, obviously, I do NBA Australia, NFL Australia, love the American sports, going through an Australian lens, and Supercoach is a really fun way to approach NFL, NBA, etc. So I'm stoked that it's back. It's awesome. As soon as it opened, I'm like, oh, golly gee whiz, Jim, this is going to be a bit of fun. That's right. Thanks, Tony Romo. Just don't get pulled over. Here we go, Jim. That's right. So what I wanted to do very quickly, just as a little dip our toes into the water this week, we'll do another NFL Supercoach show next week as we go through the most overvalued, overpriced / undervalued players out there in Supercoach land. But what I wanted to do for our first welcome back episode for NFL Supercoach is go through the 16 most interesting things I noticed right off the bat about NFL Supercoach. 16 interesting things that are kind of broken up into some other little bits and bobs. But before we get into all that, just remember, it's all very straightforward. We've got our big salary cap. You spend your money. We've got, a QB, 4 running backs, 6 wide receivers, 2 tight ends, a kicker, a defense / special teams, and a flex. So, how we spend that money, what did we learn from last year, right? That's a lot of what's going to shade what we do this season in NFL Supercoach. And really, so much of it comes down to managing your salary cap smartly, jumping off players at the exact right time, jeez, or jumping on them at the right time, jumping off, so on and so forth. So, we've got a bit of when you look through the prices, there are some, the 16 most interesting things are basically the 16 things that stood out to me right away as I was going through my first initial thoughts, going through the players, building my first initial team, etc. And the way the team is sort of set up at the moment, it will change as we go get closer to the season start and so on and so forth. But without further ado, let's do it. Our 16 most interesting things about NFL Supercoach this year. Number 1. Wow, a QB is still overpriced by Supercoach scoring. It's crazy. This is the thing. When it comes to NFL, any sort of fantasy that you do when it comes to NFL, obviously we understand that QB scoring is a sort of unique beast, right? Because you've got the throwing. Really, Jim? Yes, you've got passing yards, but you've also got rushing yards. You've got passing touchdowns. You've got rushing touchdowns. You can also lose points via sacks, interceptions. It is a very unique position. But when you tie it to a salary cap and a salary price, it gets very, very weird very, very quickly, right? So if you look at the way that it's priced out this year, and last year as well, right? You do have some very weird names at the very top of the Supercoach prices for NFL. You look at Stafford, Lawrence being at $27 and $26 million each. It's a bit weird, but you've got Josh Allen at the very top of that. You've got a couple of other weird pods floating around, which is kind of handy as well, I'm just saying. But if you look at the scorers last year from QB, and I find this absolutely fascinating. 8 of the top 10 scorers last year by average who played more than 2 games. We love you, Jameis Winston, but come on. 8 of the top 10 scorers by average were QBs. Jacoby Brissett was right there, right? This is what's going on. What that means is that there is very, very, very large swathes of opportunity for pods. What's a pod, Jim? Point of difference. It's a big, big, big thing in Supercoach having... You can go through the ownership numbers of all your players and just go a chalk team if you want. A chalk just means straight up, we've written it down on the board, we just picked it that way. What's everyone else going? Points of difference is where you're going to be making those big jumps up the overall ranks, beating people head-to-head in your leagues, all that sort of stuff. And number one, as I said, QBs are still overpriced. But that means if somebody else is spending X amount of money on Trevor Lawrence or Matt Stafford, or if you don't go with Josh Allen or so on, you can then find another pod very, very easily. Because, as I said, 8 of the top 10 scorers by average were QBs. That means all those scoring, that's scoring week in, week out, there's not going to be giant fluctuations, right? Which is kind of good. And when you look at some of the names out there where you go, ooh, I wouldn't mind just having him on my team, and it might be a little bit of a point of difference that you might get me, my nose ahead of some other folks as we go through this season. You look at names like, I think the 9th top scoring QB last year overall was Jalen Hurts. We went into last season basically going, there's like a 4-player tier at the top of NFL Supercoach when it came to QBs. And this is what we'll do our tiers and everything as we get closer to the season. But the way we went into it last year was like, it's Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, and Jaden Daniels. With a couple of other, like maybe Joey Burrows out there doing some other stuff. Drake May was the massive big surprise. But as it turns out, if you're just throwing for a lot of touchdowns, you're going to score a lot of points. Because if you think about your passing yards, it's 12.5 yards completed, that's a point. Passing touchdowns are 8 points. Interceptions only -2. Rushing yard is 1 point per 5 yards completed as well, which is pretty handy. Rushing touchdowns are 12. So if you think about that initial 4-player tier last year, what happened? Jaden Daniels was carrying injuries. Never got there. Jalen Hurts had just a stinker of a year. Never got on the same page with their offensive coordinator, Patullo, who got fired and was just out of there. AJ Brown gets traded in the offseason. It's all going sideways for him. He wasn't rushing as much as well. Saquon had a down year too. Lamar, carrying injuries, looking left, right, and center. Their coach gets fired. They completely underperform. Josh Allen, roll gold, super duper star. So 1 out of the top 4 going into the season actually stood up and was very good. It means there's a lot of opportunity. Number 2, that said, the difference between Josh Allen's average per game and number 2 versus the difference between 2 and 10 is the same. Roughly the same. So he's so clearly outperformed the rest of the QBs that it was silly just to not have Josh Allen. He averaged 46 Supercoach points per game last year. Next best, if you sort of look at the overall sort of ones, is Stafford at 41.6. We're not counting Jameis. I love you, Jameis. Eat that W. But still, if you go into like a Supercoach season with Matt Stafford going, well, I'm going to get 41.6 from him again next year. We're laughing. We're feeling good. He's like 38. We didn't know he was actually going to play last year, and off he goes. Crazy stuff. But Josh Allen, obviously, that much better. He's like, well, what's that? 4.4 points ahead. And then basically you go down all the way down to the top 10. It's about 4 or 5 points difference from 2 through 10 up to basically where Josh, like difference between 2 and 10 is about 4 or 5 points on average per game, whereas the difference between 2 and 1 is about 4 points. That's how good Josh Allen was. That said, I still think he's way overpriced at 30 mil. Going into the season with 30 mil locked into Josh Allen, especially with his first game against Houston, that's where I'm like, oh, don't know about that, Jim. Don't know about that. It gets a little bit easier the week after. He's then got Detroit. Then he's got the Chargers in New England and the Rams. So I'm just saying, we might hold our horses when it comes to Josh Allen. We'll get to that later episodes. But that's my number 2 interesting thought. He's still way overpriced at 30 mil, but he's still clearly the number 1 QB in NFL Supercoach. Number 3, that said, Lamar is a steal at $21 million. Because after last year, where he really stank it up, the 20 ranked QB overall, average of 33.5 points a game, but he only played the 13 games. That was the biggest one. And that's why he dropped 14 mil over the course of last season. He went from 30. So his starting price last year was the same as Josh Allen's last year. This year, he dropped basically $14 million, dropped to 15.8. Jeez. So he starts this season at 21 mil, and that is why he's in so many teams. He's currently in 38% of teams. And he was, as I looked at that, probably my first pick QB. We're going to talk about this as we get closer and closer to the season. But wow. Number 3, most interesting thing is Lamar is a steal at $21 million. New OC, new head coach. Jesse Minter's out there rapping Eminem. You can't tell me. At no point in his life has John Harbaugh rapped Eminem. I'm just saying. So Lamar Jackson might have a fire lit under him this year. He also starts off with a decent run here. And this is why I love Baltimore, I think, overall. Heading into the season, I think their defense will be a bit better. They start with Indy, New Orleans, Dallas, and Tennessee. I love the start of the year for Lamar. So he's a steal at 21.8 mil. Number 4, sticking on QBs, there are heaps of QBs that I'm stoked on as pods, but I still might have questions about. But they will come into consideration for my flex. So this is point number 4. There's heaps of QBs that I absolutely love going to this year. Drake May. My beloved Drake May. What is it? Drake May? Yeah. Drake May. Awesome last year, obviously. My beloved Pats go all the way to the soupy. Drake May scores 704 NFL Supercoach points across the season last year, average of 41.4. The rushing is very handy. The odd sneaky rushing touchdown, the passing touchdowns. He's now got A.J. Brown on his team. Hopefully, that means with an actual downfield target, he's scoring more passing touchdowns. He's slinging it even more. They've got a much tougher schedule this year, however, so it's going to be a little bit more iffy, I think, for Drake May. But they start off with Seattle. Do not like, right? And this is this is point number 4. I'm stoked on these QBs, but I've still got some questions. And because they start off with a Super Bowl replay against Seattle, they then play Pittsburgh. Yeesh. They then play Jacksonville and Buffalo. Jacksonville's defense last year was much improved, probably regresses a little bit this year. Buffalo, always a tough game. It's a bit of a rough start for Drake May, but I still love him. Caleb Williams, love this. We've already got their head coach, Ben Johnson, coming and saying, I want the Bears to be the highest scoring team of all time. Cha-ching! I've got him, spoiler alert, sitting firmly in my flex spot right at this exact second for that specific point. If Ben Johnson's like, you know what I want my team to do? Score lots of points. His QB is probably sitting going, all right, I'll probably have to do some stuff here, whether it be running around, and Caleb can run a little bit. But they also start off against Carolina, which feels okay, but then they have Minnesota and Philly. They then play the Jets, Green Bay, right? So it's an interesting one for Caleb, tossing that one around. Still love him. Jaden Daniels, same sort of thing. A really bad down year last year. But I still have a lot of time for Jaden Daniels because, I mean, he can do it all. He can sling it. The problem was he just sort of stunk it up last year. But the thing is, he's priced at 21 mil anyway. He only averaged 32.7 last year in the 7 games that he played. So this is the tough one. He started at 25 mil last year, finished at 20. It's just really hard to trust that O-line in Washington, especially after the Laramie Tunsil injury. It gets really, really hard. But Jaden Daniels is one to keep in the back of the bunts. Same goes for Jalen Hurts. Obviously, new offensive coordinator there in Philly. They lose A.J. Brown, but still, you expect a little bit more maybe out of Hurts throwing-wise. Maybe he's rushing a little bit more as well. It's going to be a bit different, but I'm interested. I've got a couple of questions. And Jackson Dart's the other one. He was the absolute bolter last year, finishes 14th overall, averaged 40.3 per game, however. So in terms of average, he was right up there. I think that had him 7th overall, Jackson Dart. If he's healthy, the Giants have a new coach. They have Neighbors back, Cam Scatterboo back. Dart might be the steal, but the thing is he's already priced at $26 million anyway. So again, I'm stoked on the idea, but the execution at $26 million, they do start off with Dallas, do the Giants. But yeesh, there's some incredible upside. I just kind of want to see what it looks like a little bit, you know? So there's heaps of other QBs out there, and this is without even talking about Stafford, Dak, Brissett, Lawrence, my beloved Juzzy Herbs, who I think could be absolutely awesome. But this is the problem with NFL Supercoach. There's not a giant amount of value in the difference between some of these top-tier QBs. Like, you look at Juzzy Herbs, it's at 24 mil, Bo Nix 23, Danny Dimes at 22. I mean, you sort of, and 21, as I mentioned, for Jaden Daniels, 21 for Baker. It's really sort of hard to sort of pass out the pods. And you sort of look at something like Caleb Williams being the fulcrum of an offense that wants to go out and set records and go, ooh, that might be the point of difference for my point of difference. You know what I'm saying? Number 5, most interesting point. All that said, I might just have Malik Willis as my flex. Holy moly, Jim. That's right, $15 million for the QB of the Miami Dolphins, who are going to stink this year. Don't get me wrong. The Dolphins are los horribles. It's crazy. But Malik Willis is going to throw the ball. He's going to rush. He's going to get some rushing touchdowns. He starts off with the Raiders. He's got to break even 23 because he's only at $15 million. I am just saying, when he has played, he has looked the goods. He managed what did he have? 63, I think, last year in a game against the Baltimore Ravens. He had a 25 as well. He only played 3 games last year, Malik Willis. But in charge of this horrible Dolphins team, where it's him and Devon A-Chain, like there's not much else going on. Etienne? Yeah, there you go. It's just going to be a bit of a weird one. I think Malik Willis is a really, really interesting QB pod in your flex spot. At $15 million, you save some coin. You can spread that elsewhere. Just saying, keep an eye on Malik Willis. That was the one thing that stood out to me out of all the other QBs and the cheapy ones, apart from the other cheapos that we'll get to. Number 6, we've got some El Cheapo Primos because their QBs stunk for them last year. All they got injured. Justin Jefferson on the Minnesota Vikings is the obvious one. Devonta Smith on the Philadelphia Eagles. He's now WR1, wide receiver 1. He's going to get a bunch more targets. He's an absolute burner. I love Devonta Smith this year. Brian Thomas Jr. had a horrible year. He's got a sort of bit of a depressed price. Same goes for Ladd McConkey. A couple of dudes who, going into last season, you're looking at them going, these dudes should be absolute target monsters. And this is what we're after in Supercoach. Targets, 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 targets. And it just didn't quite work out that way, did it? So McConkey was carrying an injury. Brian Thomas Jr., he also was like just in and out. And it just looked horrible. Looked like he didn't want to play at times. But the thing is, this is points per reception is NFL Supercoach, right? So you get a point for a reception. Simple as that. You catch the ball, you got a point. 5 yards, get you a point as well. After that, off you go. So you need target monsters on your teams. So that's what we need to keep in mind. So there's a couple of ones to just keep in the back of the bonds as well. Number 7, I'm already steering clear of injuries. What we saw last year is that if you're trying to carry dudes who are like even vaguely questionable, I want no bar of it. Emeka Egbuka killed us at times last year. Again this year, already under an injury cloud there in Tampa Bay. I'm out. Chris Godwin, looking at it last year, who knows what's going to happen this year. Tampa Bay, there's lots of questions about them, but geez, both of them, I'm just like, nah, no thanks. Jordan Tyson, the rookie, already injured, already out for a big chunk of time. We want no bar of him for a big chunk of it as well. Alvin Kamara, Breece Hall, Kyle Monongai. Essentially, if there's any sort of injury question mark, I don't want a bar of it. Except, here we go. This leads into number 8. Rookies are rolled Supercoach gold, obviously. They always are, rookies. And Jeremiah Love is at the top of that list. Carrying a high ankle sprain at the moment, won't play the rest of the preseason, goes into week 1. He should be absolutely awesome. Should be. He's also already owned by 67% of coaches, right? So if everybody else has already got him on there, we understand he is going to be huge in this Arizona offense, which again, the Cardinals stink. No bones about it. But Jeremiah Love is going to be unreal. Other rookies in there as well, Jadarian Price, already owned by 59% of coaches as well. So there's your two rookies on your bench for your running backs. Rolled SuperCoach Gold, because it's the rookie prices. 4.5 mil for Jadarian Price, 4.9 mil for Jeremiah Love. Love them, but still, I mean, the injury cloud around Love just gives me a little bit of a pause. But still, otherwise, the other rookies that we're looking at, obviously Fernando Mendoza, your, ostensible Raiders starting QB at some point this season, the number one overall pick. He's priced at 5 mil. Carson Beck for those self-same Cardinals, 4.15 mil. Just another one to keep in the back of the old bonds as well, because he is already owned by a fair whack of folks, because by the time he gets out there, he's on 7% of teams. Carson Beck might be good. We've already seen him in preseason carving it up. Love that. Outside of that, I mean, you think about Jadarian Price, RB1 for the Super Bowl champs for at least a month until who knows what we're going to see from Zach Charbonnet and when he does come back from his injury. But still, Jadarian Price, it's his job to lose at this point. Then you look at the wide receivers, the rookie wide receivers out there. There's plenty of them. You think about Carnell Tate. He looks awesome for the Titans, 4.9 mil, already in 63% of teams. Jordan Tyson, he's injured. Get him out of your team. 42% of coaches have still got him. I want no part of that. Mekhi Lemon for the Eagles. I do worry about his scoring ability, but otherwise, it's still just nice to have them. KC Concepcion, 4.6 mil. You've also got Deshaun Stribling, who's the one that I do love for the Niners, because they've just got no dudes left. Everybody else is old, injured, or old and injured on that Niners team. So give me all the Deshaun Stribling at the moment, 4.5 mil. But really, we've got a lot of these rookies. And remember, you basically have to sort of start picking and choosing, because we've got limited bench space here. What we have to do is get the right ones. Max them out, trade them out when we need to. But still, you got to make sure you're on the right ones. I stuck with Matthew Golden way too long last year. Tet McMillan was pretty good. Held on to him. It was basically Tet and Emeka Ibuka for me. Rome Odunze as well. And look, Matthew Golden stayed on my team for probably a little bit too long. Cost me a little bit in the end. But still, make sure you get the right rookies. What's the number 9? I think this is the number 9 point. Some of these running backs are just ridiculously priced. Like, just, it's crazy. Bijan, McCaffrey, Jonathan Taylor, Achane. I don't know. I kind of don't want any part of them early. It's just a bit how you going for me. You look at some of the cheapies, and you look at Saquon at 17 mil. After a down year for him, I get it. But Bijan at 25, Gibbs at 24.7, McCaffrey at 27.5 when he plays the Rams in week 1. Oh, yeah. Basically, this number 9 point is there is some really good running back options. We're going to mix and match. I think we might have one or two of the absolute super duper primos. Then we're going to go a couple of the mid-pricer running backs. I'm looking at you, Amari in Hampton, Kenny Walker, those sorts of dudes. There is value to be found in running back. I don't know if it's with the super primos. Speaking of which, number 10, what to do about Bijan? Can you afford to not have Bijan Robinson? He's in 53% of teams, which is actually behind Jahmyr Gibbs. It's probably because Bijan starts off against Pittsburgh, and Atlanta's QB situation is a disaster. So, I don't know. Bijan has been like one of the first picks for me all offseason, once it's opened. But I remain unconvinced, and there's going to be a lot of in and out, I think, for Bijan in my team. 11, wide receivers remain as volatile as anything, and I want absolutely no bar of a couple of them. I'll tell you what. Puka Nakua, see ya. Puka, no way. He might be, getting suspended at 25 mil. I don't know about that. Jamar Chase, still love him. Can you trust the Bengals at any point? He's on my team at the moment. He's at 20.3 mil because it's not a bad price versus something like Puka's 25. Off we go. JSN, he was my favorite call last year, was in my team the entire time. Jackson Smith in Jigba, 22.7 mil this year. I love him. But remember, wide receivers are super duper volatile week in, week out for some of these spike scores, some of the spike price rises. But the one thing that you can count on is targets and receptions. So find yourself a happy floor and make sure you've got those correct wide receivers, right? Because I think you can sort of look at some of these and go, it's all dealer's choice. It's in the eye of the beholder. Someone like Chris Olave, Nico Collins, Malik Neighbors coming back from his knee injury, Justin Jefferson coming back from having a disaster at QB. This year's got Kyler Murray. Maybe this is a good thing. I assume it is. Kyler Murray's very small. Justin Jefferson's very big. You should be able to see him and get him the ball. Fingers crossed. But wide receivers are very, very interesting. What we usually do, obviously, is have the 4-5 primo-ish, usually one or two mid-prices in there, and then a chunk of the rookies. And as I mentioned, like Stribling, Concepcion, there's a bunch of rookies in there that you can throw in there. Denzel, Boston, etc. So wide receivers, super volatile. But basically, what you have to remember is your floor is your floor. Targets and receptions. That's all we need, really, a lot of the time. JSN proved us right last year. Number 12, Dallas is off its head. That's the point. I'm just like, oh yeah, could I have CD Lamb and George Pickens in my team? Could we have Dak Prescott as our flex? Can we have Javonte Williams as well? Could we? Yes. Will we? No. It is a very odd one, I think, for the simple idea of like Dallas's entire offense is really, really, really solid. And this is still the Javonte Williams show. He's at 17.9 mil. Was absolutely awesome last year and is yet only owned by 3% of Supercoaches. Bit of a weird one. They start off with the Giants, Washington, Baltimore, and Houston. A couple of tough ones in there, I get it. But yeah, it's a bit of an odd one, isn't it? But I guess it's mostly because you sort of look around and go, I can probably trust some of the other guys a little bit more. But Javonte Williams, very, very solid. And even like Ferguson, there's just a lot of things going on with Dallas. But CD Lamb, George Pickens, I think Dallas is going to be good. I think the offense will be fantastic. CD is right there. Pickens, he was one of my favorite mid-prices last year. I think I want to sort of see how this starts before I jump on Dallas, though. That's number 12. Number 13, the most interesting points, tight ends. Strategy is a thing. It just is. You've got Brock Bowers and Trey McBride at one end, right, of like the super duper primo dudes. And I'll tell you what, that is a very, very pricey looking Trey McBride, isn't it? $19.2 million. And my initial point as I went into this was, sweet, I'll just get last year's two rookies, Colston Loveland and Tyler Warren. Boom. Tight ends 1 and 2. And then, of course, Tyler Warren goes down with an injury. And I'm like, come on, man. But at the moment, I still think Bowers is probably better value than McBride. We'll talk about this in over and undervalued next week. But I did have that idea. The Loveland-Warren combo felt pretty good because it was substantially cheaper. They're 11.6 and 11.2 respectively, Loveland and Warren, versus, 15 mil for Bowers? Yeah, 15.4 mil for Bowers and 19.2 for Trey McBride. So McBride and Bowers are the top two tight ends, but you could still get a lot of production and very, very close to, I guess, the average if you have, Warren out there and you have Colston Loveland taking a little bit more of a leap. Warren was going to be a target monster before he got injured. Loveland, I think, is going to be a target monster in Chicago as well. Basically, I think they reduced the gap between Bowers and McBride in terms of the overall scoring, and they're that much cheaper that essentially it'd equal out and you can jump to McBride and Bowers if they start going off their heads. But now, Bowers has got Miami in week 1. I'm just saying, he's probably replaced Warren in my team. And in terms of rookies, you've obviously got the cheapies. You've got Isaiah Likely, who's on the Giants now. Kenyon Sadiq is another good one for the Jets, 4.7 mil. So there's a couple of decent cheapo tight ends. But yeah, the Warren Loveland strategy for the minute is on pause until we find out more about Tyler Warren's injury, which I don't feel good about it because Tyler Warren was kind of primed for a huge season there for Indy, which has got a lot of question marks around it. Number 14. I still don't know if we need to be spending a lot of money on kickers. Basically, what you're looking at for kickers is your 40-plus yard, your 50-plus yard accuracy, and that's what happened last year, right? The most, effective kickers in NFL Supercoach were Brandon Aubrey, Jason Myers, Fairbairn, Boswell, Dick of the kicker. Fairbairn went 16 of 16 on 40-plus yard kicks and 9 of 13 on 50-plus yards, which is big Supercoach scoring points, right? So what you're looking for really are kickers on teams whose offense is pretty good, but not great. You want it to sputter out at around the 30, 40-yard mark and they go, I've got to kick another field goal. And so I'm looking again, Kymie Fairbairn on Houston, very, very solid because I remain unconvinced about Houston in general, right? Their defense is absolutely awesome. Just the offense, I need to see it, right? So Fairbairn's a very obviously a good one. I don't know about the Chargers either. So Dick of the kicker is probably a good bet. The Green Bay Packers rookie, what's his name? Trey Smack. Love him. He might be my starter at 4 mil. The Raiders have got Matt Gay or they've got Matsuzawa. Matsuzawa. There you go. But really, you look at Houston, the Chargers, Green Bay, Detroit, the Niners, definitely, New England, Andy Borregales, and Pittsburgh, Boswell. Offenses that are going to be okay-ish, if not good, but probably not blow the doors down great, which means your kick is going to have a lot more opportunity. So you got to basically go through a bunch of those teams and figure out which one works with my salary cap. And at the moment, I'm just looking at Smack as my starter because, the difference between him and Brandon Aubrey in terms of pricing, or Jason Myers, who led all kickers last year, it's kind of annoying. And for that price point, you can probably make up more points elsewhere. Just saying. Number 15, defense matters, but the scoring is whack as for the dollars. Number 1, Seattle last year. The defense special teams. Number 1, Seattle outscored number 2, Houston by 24 total points over the entire season. And Houston outscored number 3, Jacksonville by 40, which is a lot. In fact, the average difference between 1 and 2 and then 2 and 10 is the same. So, basically get either the one of the top 2 defenses or pick whoever else you like out of that. Green Bay looks cheap at 6 mil. New England looks pretty cheap at 9 mil. Dallas at 4.3 is the one to chuck on your bench because literally the only way is basically up. But outside of that, you've got to basically really look at matchups and the scoring. The Rams are the obvious one, 10.3 mil. You've got Myles Garrett there now. Probably Aaron Donald coming back. Sacks are 2 points. Interceptions are 4 points. Fumble recoveries are 4. Defensive touchdowns are 12. Safeties are 4 points. Block kicks are 4 points. 0 points allowed. Remember, defensive Supercoach stuff goes in the points allowed. I can't imagine the Rams are giving up too many massive blowout games against them. I feel like they're the safest. I think Denver's going to be really good. Houston is obviously my other pick, but because Houston start off against Buffalo, I just don't know what to make of that first game. But basically, I'm just sitting there going, I think the Rams are going to be kind of terrifying, and that defense should be awesome. So I don't know. But anyway, we'll talk about that next week. Number 16, the final most interesting point is I'm really, really happy NFL Supercoach is back. It's the best. There's so many different variances versus just straight up NFL fantasy where you have the entire player universe from which to choose, but you're constrained by your salary cap, right? You can do what you want. You can get all your favorite players, but they have to perform or it's going to sink you. So I love NFL Supercoach. It's very fun to be back. But there you go. That is our first initial NFL Supercoach show of the season. Dipping our toes in the water with 16 very interesting vibes. Or most interesting things about this year I've just on the initial perusal as we opened up NFL Supercoach. So, as per usual, make sure you're following NFL Australia, NBA Australia, and Jim Does SuperCoach on all the socials, on all your podcast apps, on YouTube, all the stuff. Jump in the comments. Tell us what you're building out your team like. Who are you picking first? Who are you picking last? Who's your favorite QB? Which running back are you locking in? Which wide receivers are you ignoring? Who do you not like? Let me know. We're going to be going bang on about all this all year this season. It was great doing it last year. Finishing 26 overall last year was a bit of a surprise. It was pretty awesome. But look, I know Supercoach. I know NFL. So it all came together very nicely. So let's try it all again. All right, so it's been NFL Supercoach, the initial episode. We've got 3 weeks before, actual kickoff here in Melbourne. So we've got a couple of weeks to build out our teams. The team reveal this week, it's not quite there yet, but it's probably, I think, what have we got? Lamar at QB1. Caleb Williams at flex. Running backs at the moment are Bijan, Gibbs, Hampton, and Walker, with Love and Price on the bench. Wide receivers are JSN, Chase, Olave, Collins, Jefferson, then probably Concepcion, Boston, and Stribling. Tight ends, Loveland, Bowers, and Sadiq. Trey Smack is the kicker. Matsuzawa on the bench. Rams and the Cowboys for the defense, special teams. I reckon that's about where we're at the moment. Lots more tinkering to come, though. So, all right, we'll be back next week with the 10 most overpriced and undervalued players in NFL Supercoach. So until then, this is Jim Does SuperCoach. Let us know how you're tracking, and happy Supercoaching.